August 26, 2023, thousands of people marched towards the Lincoln Memorial to commemorate what has come to be one of the greatest speeches in the history of America. Only 60 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech that changed and moved America. "I have a dream," he said, and sadly, today, we still have a dream. As a Latina, I have sometimes faced the consequences of racism and xenophobia. However, I had the opportunity to grow up in Uruguay, my natal country, where racism is much more rare. At the age of 18, I moved to Spain, where I started to evidence how much racism and xenophobia affect our societies. As an international relations student, I felt like I needed to do something about it. I read books, worked on projects, and learned about how to solve racism. 1 year later, I moved to the US, where again, I was faced with a new reality. I was shocked to see how much racism affects the American culture, society, and government. I also gained a new perspective as I got married and started a biracial family. I realized that racism affects us all, no matter our culture, ethnicity, race, because like Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This speech is as relevant for us today as it started in Utah as it was for the American society 60 years ago. Today, I will review two main points of I Have a Dream that are relevant for us: racial injustice and changes in education. I'll show you why we should care and what we can do about it. On August 28, 1963, more than 200,000 people met at the Lincoln Memorial for what was known as the March in Washington. Protesters came together to demand for more job opportunities for African American communities, as well as denounce the police brutality and discrimination that African American communities were suffering all across the country. The event included musical performances, speeches, and even a meeting with government representatives, including the president, to demand more civil rights bills. One of the speakers and leaders of that day was Dr. Martin Luther King with his speech, "I Have a Dream." The March in Washington pushed the Kennedy administration to initiate a civil rights bill in the Congress that caused much change. So you may wonder, how is this situation comparable to our day? Haven't we come a long way since then? So many things have changed since 1963. And as a society, we have moved forward towards integration and racial justice awareness. However, there's still so much left to do before we can live up to MLK's dream. The map behind me shows protests, riots, and political violence that happened only between the months of May and August of 2020. This are a map of people coming together to denounce police brutality, institutionalized racism, and hate crimes towards different minority groups. Like MLK said, there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. And we are seeing this on our streets. He also said, quote, "There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality," unquote. We cannot be satisfied. We still have things to fix. However, despite the long road that we have ahead, our policies are not moving forward, they're even backwards. In the last few years, 23 states have accepted bans in critical race theory. One of those states is Utah. What this means is that our youth, and even us, we won't be able to learn about the history of racism and racial injustice in our country. This is why we need to be aware of these issues, and we need to learn it by ourselves, because we cannot fight a problem that we ignore. Now, as I look to the future, to my future family and children, I join MLK's words when he said, quote, "I have a dream that my children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character," unquote. To work towards this dream, we need to be informed. King himself, on his speech, made reference to the progress that society had done since the Emancipation Proclamation to his date. Understanding our history is important because, like he said, quote, 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. We can see now that this speech is as relevant to us as students in Utah as it was for the American society 60 years ago. Today, we learn how racial injustice and changes in education are two ways in which this speech is relevant to us. I would like to end this speech by quoting MLK when he said, quote, "Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children," unquote. Maybe 60 years ago was the best time, but today is the second best time. We still have a dream. Let's make it true.